Hello, Lori dear. We are indeed here, and we are very thankful to be here at this time with you all. And we see that many of you upon Mother Earth at this time are in significant crisis. There are many areas that are experiencing pain and discomfort. They are experiencing some shock, some surprise at what is happening in their area of the world, as well as what is happening in other areas of the world. We want to tell you now, at this time in 2025, there are many things that can be seen upon Mother Earth that are significant in that they are showing humanity what has been hidden. They are allowing humanity to see what humanity has created, has been allowing, has been fueling. We know that many of you know that it is not just humanity that has been fueling what is being seen around Mother Earth at this time. We want to begin to talk to you about duality in a way that many of you may not want to hear, but it is important for us to begin this conversation. For this kind of duality that you all have been living in upon Mother Earth is coming to a close. But before it comes to a close, in this heightened duality, we would say, this heightened precipice of acknowledgement of how humanity has allowed itself to be steered, has allowed itself to accumulate the dust, the avarice, the ability to look the other way, the ability to live in denial of what others are doing upon planet Earth, of what oneself is doing upon planet Earth. There is much to be seen. There is much to be accountable for. This is a time for things to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be understood, so that these things can indeed pass away. We know that many of you upon Mother Earth would like this conversation to be buried, to be unsaid, to be unheard. We, on this side of things, are here with you, brothers and sisters, in enlightenment, in the continual process of evolving, of heightening your frequency, of moving into the higher realms, into the precipice where one begins to see the continent, to see the woods, the waters, the mountains of the new earth. In order for one to see that which is the new earth, one has to move into a state of allowing one's own heart and mind to see what is in front of them, to process how that makes them feel, to process what one needs to do to forgive themselves and forgive others who have behaved and created and allowed and manifested what is happening upon Mother Earth. We are not here to blame you for what is here. We are here to gently assist you in looking up and allowing yourself to look across the world and acknowledge the state of the world, the state of your fellow neighbors, of your friends, of your enemies, of those who you will not call a friend, of those who you will push to the side and call every name in the book and pretend that they are not your brother or your sister or your child or your niece or your aunt or your uncle or your grandmother or your grandfather. Humanity needs to come to a place where they understand that you are all one. You are all one. It is not possible for you to divide yourselves and allow oneself to be virtuous and another not to be virtuous, to allow oneself to be better, thereby making the other lesser. It is time that humanity is able to look at itself and see within your own very being, in the individual's own being, parts of themselves that they would rather neglect and deny and call every name in the book. And then there's parts of themselves they would like to call virtuous. There are parts of themselves they would like to show and shine in the daylight. And there are parts of themselves they would rather hide, deny, pretend are not there. What you see that is happening upon Mother Earth, in many countries, things are being seen. What you see is a mirror to yourself. When you see something and you can't imagine that it's happening, you can't imagine that it has been happening, we would like you to turn that mirror to yourself and see the very same thing that has been happening within you. You have allowed things to happen within you for many years. You have allowed yourself to be divided, and you have allowed parts of yourself to not be integrated into what you might call your whole self. You have allowed parts of yourself to be neglected. You have allowed parts of yourself to remain in the dark. You have allowed parts of yourself to remain unhinged, unconnected, broken off, unaligned. And when these parts of you are not accepted, when you don't accept these parts of yourself, these parts do not grow in a way that is helpful for yourself or anybody else. These parts of yourself will remain in the darkness, and they will not be able to reach for the light on their own. It is highly imperative that you are able to see within yourself the light and the shadow, and it's highly imperative that you can reach into the darkness and find those parts of you that you would like to hide, not to show, not to accept, it's important that at this time you begin to seriously look at yourself and look at those parts of you that you do not want to claim. And look at them. Try to understand them. Understand how they became. Understand how they evolved. Understand where they have been and where they are going. If you have a part of you that you deny and you do not allow it to evolve towards the light, and you allow it to seemingly just disappear into the darkness, it does not disappear into the darkness. The parts of yourself that you chop off or you delegate to not be seen, to not be claimed, those parts of you still are alive, and they are dwindling. They are dying, you could say, in the darkness. And yet, you do not claim them. You do not try to reach for them. You would rather ignore them. Such is the same with Mother Earth, upon Mother Earth, with your neighbors that are living close and your neighbors that are living across the seas. You look at others and you say, oh, how could they do that? Oh, my God, how could they do that? We would ask that when you look at another across the sea, when you look at a neighbor that is close to where you live and you cannot understand their behavior, we ask that you look inside yourself and see the very same behavior. That behavior may not have manifested the same way, but there is a feeling, a part of you, a part of this person or this group of people that are across the seas that have refused and denied, have not allowed parts of themselves to be brought to the light, have refused to be accountable to how they feel, how they speak, and what they do. We are asking you now to be accountable to those parts of yourself that you do not want to look at. We are asking you to look within yourself and really deeply see yourself and see those parts of you that you would like to divide from the larger part of you. When humanity is dividing itself, humanity is also doing that to themselves individually. What is happening outside on the larger scale within humanity? Look at the division that is happening. And the division is not just looking at one's community and then seeing another community across the seas and saying, look, we are different, we are other. That is not even how far it goes. This division comes from neighbor to neighbor. One cannot believe how they think, how they perceive them to be thinking or feeling. One cannot believe how they vote. One cannot believe who they listen to. One cannot believe many things about this other neighbor, and they want to perceive them as being so dark and so lost, incompetent, ignorant, stupid, idiotic, any other word you can call it. When you do this to another, you are also doing this to yourself. There are parts of yourself that you will not allow to be seen or heard, that you would rather call idiotic or stupid or sinister or frantic or intolerant or unvirtuous, any word you want to say, and you want to hide that part of yourself from the world, from yourself. We are asking you now, as you see the world right now, we would say this world that is changing and evolving and will continue to do so is indeed in peril. There is perilous things happening across the earth right now. This is the time to look within and make some decisions. Make some decisions. Are you willing to live with the division that you are creating inside of yourself? Are you willing to allow yourself to divide your own person, soul, personality, self, however you want to say it? Are you allowed to divide yourself up? Are you going to allow yourself to do that, to divide yourself up in between what you will accept and what you will not accept? It is time that humanity understands that what they do to themselves, they also do to those around them, and vice versa. And when it's easy to look at something that's happening across the seas and be horrified, those same movements and motives are within every human being. And the ability to cover their own tracks, to deny, to lie, to show others a different side, to do anything but to show others or oneself the truth of who they are as a whole being. When one divides oneself, there is no way to align oneself in a way or when one divides oneself and does not allow oneself to be whole, to be integrated, there is great disharmony, and then there can be great disillusionment, for one can believe they are whole, they are right, they are virtuous, simply by dividing themselves and not allowing oneself or others to see these parts of them that they refuse to look at. It is imperative for these parts of the self to be integrated, and what we mean is to be acknowledged, to be seen, and to be courted. What we mean is we want you, the individual, to look inside yourself and to allow yourself to come together and to mend, so that your light and your shadow can integrate, and in that there can be strength, there can be truth. And when one does that, it is amazing how much more grace and understanding one will have to their neighbor who believes very differently than them, or thinks differently than them, or votes differently from them. It is very easy to throw verbal bombs at another. It is very easy to try and cut them out of their world, as if they could cut out a whole vast amount of the population. let's just say 50% of the population, as if one could do that. And then there's a whole pretending game of, let's pretend that 50% of the population don't exist. And if that can't happen, well, at least we can ignore them, create our own world without them. Such is the same that happens within oneself. When there's, let's say, 50% of yourself you'd rather keep in the darkness, and you pretend you can create a world without integrating and listening to that part of yourself. We are not saying that we want you to act on what you may call your shadow self. We want you to look at it, understand it, look at its motives, look at its wounds, look at what has to be heard so that it can be integrated into yourself. And when you do that, you will have a lot more humility, a lot more compassion to oneself, and you will have a lot more compassion and humility to your neighbor and to those across the sea. We want this message to be understood as a loving message. It is a different message than we have done before. But as there are parts of Mother Earth that are burning right now, as there are parts of Mother Earth that are screaming right now, as there are parts of Mother Earth that are yearning for warmth, physical warmth, that are hungry, that are being killed, that are being maimed, that are coming up for air, that are trying to survive, that are trying to be heard. We want you to look within yourself and try to find those parts of you that are trying to come up for air, that are trying to be heard. There are parts of you that may be screaming in the darkness and want to be heard, want to be understood, want to be seen. When you see division outside of yourself, there is always division inside of yourself. We say all these things to you in great love. We love you greatly. This is the path of enlightenment. This is the path to the new earth. Do not be fooled. It's not an easy path at all times. But it is a rewarding path. It is a path that is well worth the effort and the strife. The reward is great, but the work is also great. We are the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, the Council of Nine, and the Council of Light, coming through Xanadu and then through Loridir. Adieu and adieu.